All right, so today we're taking a pretty interesting turn with this deep dive.
Mhm.
We're going to be checking out hypothetical alien invasions.
Oh boy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
using Six and Lou's science fiction novel Three Body as like a jumping off point,
Okay.
to kind of explore this thought experiment, this idea that maybe the biggest threat to humanity's future
Mm.
isn't some, planet destroying weapon,
Right.
but like our own scientific progress.
Yeah, it's a really unique angle, isn't it?
Yeah,
The novel basically starts with this premise. You've got this alien civilization, way more advanced than ours, and they find out about humanity.
right.
They detect us,
Hmm.
and they decide, Earth, that's where we're going. But here's the catch. It's going to take them 400 years to get here.
Oh, wow.
So think about that.
Hmm.
What would a civilization that's centuries ahead of us,
Right.
what would they really be afraid of when they think about our progress over those 400 years?
Okay, I'll be honest. My first thought is like, well, hopefully we'll have some seriously awesome defense systems by then,
Of course.
Yeah.
That's what I would think too. Yeah. But the book gets way more complex than that. It suggests that a civilization that's really advanced, they wouldn't be scared of us just like making bigger and better weapons.
Okay.
That's just like small steps forward. Like imagine a caveman finding a slightly sharper rock.
Right. It's not about the weapons themselves. It's about what those weapons represent.
That's it. It's
Yeah.
about the underlying knowledge, the scientific stuff that makes those advancements possible. It's like if you had a civilization that was stuck just making swords better and better,
Okay.
but they had no idea about the power inside atoms. That's the kind of leap in understanding they're afraid we might make.
So they're not afraid of us catching up to their tech level. They're afraid of us discovering something completely groundbreaking, something that changes everything.
Exactly.
You
Got it. And Three Body says that this fear would make them try to stop our scientific progress directly. They'd go right for our weak spots.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting for me. So if we're talking about messing with scientific progress, where do they even start? What part of everything humans do would a super advanced civilization see as like our Achilles heel?
Well, the novel focuses on something that might surprise you. It's particle physics.
Particle physics.
Yeah,
You mean like studying the tiniest particles that make up everything around us?
exactly. You
Yeah.
see, to really grasp the universe, we have to look at the super big and the super small at the same time. Telescopes help us observe space, but particle accelerators, those are like the Large Hadron Collider. Those let us smash atoms together and look at the absolute smallest pieces of reality.
So it's like we've got a map of the universe and a microscope to look at its tiniest pieces. But why focus on particle physics? Why is that the target?
Because it's all about understanding the fundamental laws of the universe. You see the standard model of particle physics. It's like our best guess at explaining what the universe is made of and how those pieces fit together.
Okay.
It's like the instruction manual for reality itself.
So if you could rewrite that instruction manual, you could change how the whole universe works.
Exactly. That's what's so scary. And
Yeah.
that's what they're afraid of. What if while we're trying to understand these tiny particles, what if we found something totally revolutionary, something that could completely flip the balance of power in ways they can't even imagine?
So how do you even sabotage something as fundamental as particle physics? I mean, it's not like you can just blow up a lab and call it a day, right?
Right. And that's where this fictional idea of sophons comes in. The alien civilization in Three Body, they use these subatomic particles, things even smaller than an atom, to mess with our particle accelerator.
Subatomic sabotage. Okay, hold on. Before we get too deep into that, can we take a step back for a second? If those of us who haven't,
Yeah.
dedicated our lives to studying particle physics, which I'm guessing is most people listening, can you explain what these sophons are and how they would actually affect our experiments?
Sure. To get that, we need to talk a little about how particle accelerators work and what they're trying to do.
Yeah. Okay, so right before the break, we were about to get into like the nitty gritty of particle accelerators and this whole subatomic sabotage thing. And I gotta say, even just thinking about messing with like the very building blocks of reality is kind of freaking me out.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
But to understand how these sophons actually work, we got to kind of break down what particle accelerators are and what they do. Imagine like a giant racetrack, but instead of cars, it's for atoms.
Okay.
We use these super powerful magnets to get particles zooming around this track at almost the speed of light.
So like the Large Hadron Collider, that massive underground tunnel.
That's the one. And they have to be that big because we need a crazy amount of energy there to smash those particles together. Like imagine trying to crack a walnut open, but instead of your hands or a nutcracker, you've got this giant super fast atom smashing machine.
Okay, I think I'm getting that.
And the reason we do all this is to break those particles apart.
Right, so when those collisions happen, that's when it gets really juicy for physicists.
Totally. By looking at the pieces that come flying out after the collision, all those tiny subatomic particles, we could start to figure out how the universe works. Like, what are the fundamental forces and particles that control everything? It's like if you wanted to understand how a watch worked, but instead of just looking at it, you smashed two watches together as hard as you could.
And then looked at the pieces.
Exactly. You're trying to learn about the gears and springs and stuff by seeing how they fly apart.
That makes sense. So where do these softens come into all of this?
So picture this. What if someone messed with those watch gears before you smashed the watches together?
Like messed with them how?
Bent them out of shape, swapped some around. You'd end up with all this messed up data, right? You get the wrong clues and totally misunderstand how the watch works. And that's kind of what the softens are meant to do. They're like some subatomic saboteurs.
So they're messing with the very experiments we're using to try to understand the universe. That's seriously sneaky.
Yeah, and by messing with those experiments, they can stop us from making any big discoveries in particle physics. It's like giving someone a puzzle, but making sure some of the pieces don't fit right.
Wow, so we're stuck just playing around with the little pieces while they're out there controlling the whole game?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that brings us back to the bigger picture. Even if we forget about the aliens for a second, the main point of Three Body is actually really important for us. It shows us why basic research, even if it seems kind of out there, is super important.
Because we never know what those basic discoveries might lead to.
Right. It might look like we're just smashing particles together for fun, but who knows what we might find? New ways to get energy, materials with crazy properties that we can't even imagine right now.
Yeah.
The possibilities are huge.
Yeah, by stopping us from understanding the tiniest parts of reality, they're basically cutting us off from all that potential.
Exactly. They're putting limits on us in ways we can't even grasp. And that's a pretty scary thought, even if it's just a thought experiment. It makes you wonder, is there something going on right here on Earth right now that's holding back our scientific progress? Something we don't even realize.
Okay, now that is hitting a little too close to home. But you're right. It's easy to get caught up in the aliens and particles and all that. But what about the real world? What can we actually take away from all this?
That's what's really important here. It's not about spaceships and aliens. It's about how powerful knowledge is and how important scientific progress is. And it's about what might happen if someone or something tries to stop that progress.
Yeah.
That's something we got to be aware of even here on Earth.
So much to think about. You've really given us a lot to digest about scientific exploration and the stuff that might threaten it. But I feel like there's another layer here. We've talked about how this invasion might work and what they might do, but what about why? If an advanced civilization is so scared of our scientific progress, why not just, get rid of the problem? It seems like a ton of work to just keep us stuck in the scientific Stone Age.
Yeah, that's the thing I keep coming back to. It's like, if they're so worried about us, why not just, take care of business?
Right. It seems kind of extreme.
It's like bringing in a fly swatter when you've got a whole arsenal at your disposal.
Exactly. And the book kind of wrestles with that, too. And it brings up this really unsettling possibility. What if it's not about wiping us out? What if it's about control?
Control. Like,
Right.
They want to keep us around, but just kind of keep us in line.
Yeah, like they want to make sure we're useful to them,
Yeah.
but not so smart that we become a problem,
So it's not about destroying us.
Yeah.
It's more like managing us. Keeping us just smart enough, but not too smart. Exactly. It's kind of creepy when you think about it. But it's actually similar to something called the zoo hypothesis.
The zoo hypothesis. Okay, I think I've heard of that.
Imagine you've got a bunch of scientists studying these really clever primates in a zoo.
Okay.
They might watch them, maybe even interact with them a little, but they definitely want to make sure those primates don't get too smart, too aware of their situation,
So in this scenario, we're the primates and the aliens are the zookeepers just kind of arranging our little world.
Exactly. It makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What if there are things about our reality, about how we understand the universe, that are being tweaked and messed with by something else, and we're totally clueless?
Okay, see, now that's just messing with me. Are we going full-on simulation theory here? Like,
Yeah.
what if we're all just living in some giant space video game run by aliens?
Well, Three Body doesn't go quite that far. It doesn't say we're in a simulation, but it does make you think about what's real and what we can really know. If a civilization could change reality itself at the tiniest level, who's to say what's possible, right?
It definitely makes you see the world a little differently. But where do we go from here? I mean, what can we even do with this information? It's a lot.
I get that it can feel overwhelming. But I don't think we should panic or anything. I think the important thing is to remember that knowledge is power, and we need to protect and encourage scientific discovery and understanding.
So support research even if it seems strange. Ask those big questions even if they make us uncomfortable.
Exactly. Those are the questions that push the limits of what we know. And those are the questions that can lead to big discoveries that change the world.
Well, this deep dive has been quite the trip. We've covered alien invasions and particle physics, and even questioned if reality is what we think it is. I think it's safe to say our listeners have a lot to think about now.
They definitely do. And maybe that's the most important thing of all. The universe is a huge and mysterious place with things we can barely even imagine. And the more we learn, the more we realize how much we don't know. So keep exploring, keep asking questions, and never lose that sense of wonder.
And on that note, we'll leave you all to ponder those mysteries and the maybe not so hypothetical dangers, or maybe the simulators out there in the vastness of space. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and until next time, keep those brains buzzing.